I bought this broken 2003 Subaru WRX for $1,800. Today we're going to find out, was this the absolute bargain of the century, or did I waste my money? Stick around and let's find out. So this is the latest marketplace find. So this is a 2003 Subaru WRX. So this car was listed for $4,000 as having a blown gearbox but a running engine. So I kept an eye on it for a little while, and then it popped up for $2,500. So I went and had a look at it, and let me just show you what I found. So when I initially went and had a look at this car, I was just after an engine for mine. I was told the engine ran fine, but after giving it a good look over, I wasn't so sure. So the engine started up, but then it would only idle for a second and then switch off. So I found the whole intake was missing, but someone had actually cut the wires for the MAF sensor and removed that completely. So that would just cause it to shut off. So I wasn't able to run it long enough to test and see if the motor is any good, but it wasn't knocking initially. So that was a bit of a good sign. But then the next thing I noticed was the radiator. So the cap was missing and there's no water or coolant in there. I did ask the guy about it and he said he had to borrow the cap, but I don't know, it was all a bit sus, but for that price I was just going to give it a go. So I was lucky enough to be able to get a MAF sensor and the wiring to go with it from the wreckers. So I'm going to cut and splice that one back in, and then we'll see if this thing starts up and idles. But first I want to do a oil change and change the filter, and then we'll cut the old filter open and see if there's any metal shavings or anything before we start it up. So fingers crossed this one's a runner. So I've picked up some cheap oil to run in this thing. This is on special at the moment, so we'll put some fresh oil in it. Got the oil filter to whack in there, and then obviously we've got the MAF sensor. I've got a radiator cap. I'm not sure if this is even the right type for it because they've got the two cap system, but this is what was coming up on the system as the right one. So we'll try that, put some water in it. And then I've also got some JB Weld because I've got a feeling there's going to be a hole or something in the radiator because the water has got to go in somewhere. So we'll whack this in and give it a go. So it'll be interesting to see how much oil is actually in here, because when I checked it, it looked pretty low, and we'll see what colour it comes out. And we need to see if there's any gold shiny flakes or anything in there that's going to indicate bearing damage. Fingers crossed. Why is that tight? Here we go. Whoa! So I'll let that have a good drain out. So this is why I need one of those oil catchers on a stand. So that has not been changed for a long time. It's definitely going to be a fun project playing with this because it's an absolute mystery to me whether this car is going to be any good or not. I mean, if the motor runs and we solve this clutch issue, we might have a good car. But we'll see. See if we can catch the oil. Oh, that's on tight. So someone's put that on a little bit too tight, so I'll use my tool for that one, if I can get in there. These headers are so close. There we go. Oh, that's super tight. I don't know why people do these up so tight. All right, can we land it in the pan? Let's see. No, I think I'm gonna bring the pan up if I can. It's full of bloody oil. Oh, there it comes. Yummy. Good for the skin. All right, I'll let that drain out for a little bit. Oh, I'm making a mess everywhere. I really don't know why I went to the effort of epoxying my shed floor, because it is trashed. It's had an absolute thrashing with all these cars coming up on the hoist. But, oh well. So the good thing about the oil filter location on these, because it's upside down, you can actually fill it up with oil easy enough. So at least it's not dry starting, because you need to give it every little bit of help it's got with it being a Subaru. All right, let's top her up with oil. So it says it takes about 4.5 litres, so wait until I get about 500 left, and then we should be good. Just about there. So I'm going to say that should be right for now. And we'll give it a start up and let it run for a bit, and then I'll check it again. But first, what I'm going to do is borrow the intake and the MAF housing mount off my other Subaru, and we'll put it on here so it's not just free sucking air. And I'll fill this radiator up with a bit of water before we start it. Fingers crossed this thing works. So before starting it, I'm just going to whack the scan tool on and delete the MAF codes and reset that. Otherwise it won't let us start. So air intake and MAF off my other car is on here now. I know that one works. So we've got the wiring fixed up there, that's all connected. I've got water in the radiator, which hasn't pissed out everywhere, so I'm assuming that's all good. Put our new cap on there and we're full of oil. So it's time to finally start it. Fingers crossed it runs. Oh, it's done it again. So this is what it was doing before, so we're gonna figure out what's going on. So I'll put my scan tool on and see what it's telling me this time. So it's interesting, I just put the scan tool on it again and it was telling me there's no fault codes. So I'll try starting it again. The only other thing is, I don't know when this was last driven, so it could have some stale fuel on it as well, but I'll give it a start again and see what it does. No go. It seems more like an electrical fault the way it's switching off, so gonna have to do a bit more investigation. It's on. It sounds mean. Yeah, I just started it before I hit go on the camera and it sort of chugged and then fired, so well, it's idling on its own and it sounds good. So it's idling on its own, we've got no smoke coming out of it. We got no bubbles coming out of the radiator either, so that looks pretty good so far. So she seems to be idling perfect. I haven't seen any water or any oil or anything dripping from underneath it. Coolant still looks good. This might be a good engine. So it runs, so the next thing to check is this gearbox issue. So the guy reckons the gearbox is broken on it. So I put my foot on the clutch and the clutch goes all the way to the floor. So that tells me the clutch has obviously got an issue, but when I have the car off and I put it in gear, it goes into all the gears easy. So I'm thinking it might be clutch related. So what I'm going to try is I'm going to turn the car off. I'm going to start it in gear and see if it moves. So that'll give us a bit of an idea of what's going on. So a bit of an update. So motor's all sorted. Starts first click, runs perfect, no issues on that front. So the next thing to move on to was the gearbox. So I managed to start it in first gear and it rolled along and drove fine up the road. Rev matched it into second, no issues there. Basically went through all the gears without the clutch and it works in every gear. So obviously the issue is clutch related. So the next thing I moved on to was the slave cylinder down here. So we tested all that, I bled it up, it went in and out as it should. So obviously that was not the issue. So I took the boot off the fork, the clutch fork, and had a look down there, and it is moving but it's jamming up. And then when I shine a torch down there, I could actually see it looked like something was broken on the pressure plate. So the next step, I'm just going to pull the gearbox out and have a look, because I'm pretty sure it's just something that's broken on the clutch, and hopefully should be an easy fix to get this thing driving. So I've taken the starter motor out, I've taken the slave cylinder out, and I've started taking the bolts out of the top of the bell housing. So the next step, there's a little plug just down here, if you can see it. So there's a little plug just in here you take off, and this is how you access the rod for the clutch fork. So to get that out, you've got to take the cap off, get yourself an M6 bolt with a decent length thread, and then we've just got to thread this in here. And then you can just pull the rod out like that. So that's a nice little trick for you if you're getting stuck, because if you don't pull that rod out, you won't be able to separate the gearbox. So we've got all the stuff off on the top half of the engine that we need to undo to get this gearbox out. So the next step, I need to remove the dump pipe, first half of the exhaust, and then I can start looking at undoing the CVs, because we'll have to pop them out to get the gearbox out. All right, exhaust is off, so next step I'm going to drain the gearbox oil. I made the mistake last time I did a Subaru clutch not to do that. And as soon as you pull these front CVs out, it's just going to piss oil straight out of there. So we'll drain that first so that doesn't happen this time. So on a 2003 or older WRX, you'll notice there's a little pin you have to knock out on the CV here. If you don't knock that out, you won't be able to remove the CVs. Okay, so everything's off now, so I'm ready to drop the gearbox out. So I've got the transmission jack set up, ready to go. It's not my favourite part. I always seem to have issues separating a motor and a gearbox. The last one I had on a Subaru, the dowel pins came out the wrong side, so that was super hard to get out. So we'll see how we go. Hopefully this one comes out easier, and this is going to reveal what's wrong with the car. So gearbox is out. I've had a look at the clutch, but I can't see what's wrong with it. So I hope I haven't pulled this gearbox out for no reason. So the thrower bearing's still attached. It all seems to function. I think I'm gonna have to pull this clutch off and have a look. So I was a bit worried that I did all that for nothing and it was just something simple like the slave cylinder. Even though I did test it, I thought I could be wrong. but it's good news. It's actually the clutch, so I'll show you on here. So once I got the clutch off, you can see these little fingers here. The little retainer's broken off and they've pushed through. So that will be why my clutch pedal's not returning and it's not springing back properly. So I'm pretty happy with that. It wasn't all for nothing. It was the clutch that was the problem. The gearbox is fine. So looks like we could have a really good buy on our hands. So I'm gonna get the flywheel machine tomorrow, pick up a new clutch for it if they've got one in stock, and then we'll put it all back together and fingers crossed it goes into gear and drives. So I'm gonna have to end the episode there for now. So stick around for the next episode to see if this thing drives. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that button and we'll see you next time.